Well, hopefully after this, the Coming to America franchise is coming to an end. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're talking about a brand new Amazon Prime release coming to America. Let me know in the comments before we begin what your thoughts on this movie were, if you already saw it, if you were excited for it, if you weren't planning on seeing it, let me know so we can discuss. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting my channel out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases, older films, hidden gems, and so much more on a near daily basis. But let's not waste any more time and let's talk about Coming to America. This once again stars Eddie Murphy as the African monarch Akeem, who learns he has a long-lost son, played by Jermaine Fowler, in the United States and must return to America to meet this unexpected heir and build a relationship with his son. This is the sequel to Eddie Murphy's smash 1988 hit Coming to America, and it's directed by Craig Brewer, who previously teamed up with Murphy for the excellent Dolomite Is My Name, and is co-written by Kenya Barris, the creator of Blackish, as well as Barry W. Blaustein and David Sheffield, who co-wrote both Nutty Professor movies, which were also big hits for Murphy. And while I always show skepticism for sequels that get released so many years after the original, I still had high hopes for this one. Given everyone who was involved, including bringing back nearly all of the original cast, the writing seemed to be on the wall for this to be a knockout of the park. And boy oh boy, did we get the opposite of that. Now, I will say, it was nice to see a lot of the same characters return, and the cast attempting to bring back some of that same energy. There's a blooper reel that rolls during the credits, and it seemed like they all had a lot of fun making this. And there are times I did laugh out loud, with some standouts being Arsenio Hall in just about all of his roles, as well as James Earl Jones briefly returning as King Joffrey. But the film's plot feels totally uninspired, and the characters are all over the place. While the first movie isn't a film that has an overly complex story and breaks new ground, it was still relatively nice and to the point, and it worked because of the cast's comedic talent and likable charms. A lot of the humor stemmed from Murphy grinning his way obliviously through his interactions with everyday New Yorkers, even as they cursed out each other or himself. And I'm not saying you needed them to be the exact same people as they were 30 years ago. Like, to have a late 50s Akeem still have the mind of a 25-year-old would be unbelievable. But one of the most frustrating elements was that they had the character completely shy away from who he was. Part of Akeem's arc in the original was that he was a really likable guy who earnestly wanted to do the right thing and break from his country's outdated customs. The journey we took with him was emotionally satisfying in that first film because he eventually accomplishes that goal. But here, they more or less have him go into the opposite direction, morphing into a version of King Joffrey. And while that's a point that's made a number of times throughout the movie and is supposed to be part of his arc, it still feels very forced, as it goes totally against who this character was to begin with, and it just creates unnecessary conflict. Akeem becomes very similar to Murphy's other out-of-touch father characters he played in the late 90s and early 2000s, like Dr. Dolittle, Daddy Daycare, and The Haunted Mansion. He doesn't listen to what his children want, he's overly reactionary and rude whenever someone does something he doesn't care for, and he'll act like a total jerk at times. And while part of the film involves trying to get him to come back to his senses, it still feels like a total undoing of what was built up so wonderfully over the course of the first movie. It doesn't even feel like the same character, especially since he's seen getting repeatedly into arguments with his wife Lisa, played once again by Shari Headley, who, despite being such an integral part of his arc in the first movie, is tossed to the side here, seen as nothing more than a jealous housewife. Of all the returning characters in this movie, the writing for her character felt like the most insulting, especially given how nicely written she was in the first film. And as far as the other characters returning, while it is nice to see all the familiar faces, they just don't have the same charm as they did 30 years ago. It feels more like the screenwriters were checking off who we need to see before moving on. It's like, oh, there's Reverend Brown. Oh yeah, there's the Barbers. Oh yeah, let's not forget McDowell's. Oh, and let's throw in another reference to the Dukes. But none of the dialogue was all that funny. The Barbers, for example, went from being the hands-down most memorable part of the first movie to just being four guys who say these generic wisecracks in their usual cantankerous manner. And while the structure of their interactions would be the same, they just weren't saying anything inherently funny this time around. The The way the film's humor worked in general was that it would have all the returning characters say things in the exact same way they did in the first movie, not put much thought into what was being said, and just hope you'd ride the nostalgia train all the way to the end. The only two characters who were written with any sort of natural warmth were King Jaffe and Mr. McDowell, but unfortunately, they're only two very small parts of the film. And as I said, Arsenio Hall is also fun, but he's not the focus of the entire movie. And where this movie becomes increasingly frustrating, though, is in the many subplots and wildly different directions it took. You had Akeem's son, who was trained to be his heir, but then we also get introduced to Akeem and Lisa's three daughters, and one of them was really hoping to take on the throne after Akeem, but despite this being 2021, there's still this corny, outdated rule that only Akeem's son can rightfully be the heir. Then there's Akeem's arc about turning more into his father, and then there's another side plot involving the son falling in love with one of Zamunda's royal servants, and then Lisa's jealous of the son's mom, played by Leslie Jones, and then there's another arc where Wesley Snipes is here as the leader of another nation trying to kill Akeem, and it's just completely all over the place. And this is on top of trying to work in scenes forcing the main characters to cross paths with all the side characters. It's extremely unfocused, and not only that, but you don't even feel invested in any of these new characters. Because we'll get a scene each with the son and the daughters before each of them are thrusted into their own respective conflicts. And I mean literally one scene. The film didn't devote any time into developing their personalities, with the daughters especially repeatedly pushed to the side for long stretches of time. Yet the film's asking us to care when the son can't find a connection with his father, who we just met the other day. And they're asking us to care when the daughter who's been preparing to be the queen all her life feels like she's being passed up, even though we haven't seen her for like half the movie. On top of that, the film can't even make up its mind as to whether or not it wants Akeem or his son to be the main character. And there's one thing about being to the point with character development. Like, there are plenty of great films where it's made clear who a character is within their very first scene, but a lot of what we get here with the newer characters would be very surface level baseline exposition in their respective first scenes, and then they get thrown into about 5 different directions that are difficult to even care about. And that's just not what makes a compelling character. What the film really needed to do was get rid of about half these subplots, give us 1 or 2 strong stories to work off of, and then use the 2 hours to develop them, not cram 7 different generic stories into 2 hours. Then it would have been a sequel that truly did justice to the original. Yeah, this is pretty bad. Now, it's not the worst thing I've seen because there were some funny moments here and there, thanks to the charms of the cast, but very little about it worked. A lot of the callbacks to the original felt phoned in, it went off in way too many directions, and all of the new characters felt severely underdeveloped, while a lot of the returning characters didn't ring true to what made them so likable in the first place. So, all in all, this is a swing and a miss. Coming to America gets a 4 out of 10. So disappointed in this one. Just with so many talented people involved, this should have been way better than it was. But I guess it just happens. The pieces line up for what should be a home run, and it strikes out, I guess. Oh well. Hopefully Murphy and Brewer will each be back with something special soon. I'm really hoping Murphy can keep up the Dolomite as my name momentum, but we'll see. Let me know though, did you see Coming to America, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you like this one at all? Do you have a favorite Eddie Murphy movie? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and keep having fun with film.